Welcome to this episode of The More You Know, a series of short videos produced by the Pennsylvania Link to Aging and Disability Resource Services Area 13 partners. Service Area 13 consists of Berks, Lancaster, and Lebanon counties, and it's one of the 15 service areas across the Commonwealth that exists to provide long-term living information and resources for persons aged 60 and over, persons with a disability, veterans, family members, and caregivers. Welcome again to being here. My name is Margie Degler Pizarro, and I am your host for this series. I am a geriatric and palliative care nurse practitioner who is a passionate advocate for abundant living and aging. The Pennsylvania Link to Aging and Disability Resources is part of a nationwide initiative developed to take a seamless approach in the way that we assist seniors with disabilities who need activities of daily living. So, whether you're a senior or you are a person with disabilities, when you need long term information or assistance, call the PA Link to Aging and Disability Resource Center toll free helpline at 1 800 753 8827. The title of today's episode is Getting to Know the Disability Empowerment Center. And my guest is Dan Stroup. And as always, the purpose for today's interview with Dan is to bring a renewed awareness about all the many benefits that this program has to offer you and for them to be an up to date and reliable source of information. And Dan, thank you so much for being here today. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to just tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself, what you do for the program, and if you could, in one or two sentences, tell me the best parts of the program. So, Dan, thanks for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Margie. I'm honored to have the opportunity to come and speak to everyone and be part of your project. My name is actually Dan Stroup. Everybody says it wrong, but that's okay. I'm kind of used to that. I'm the executive director at Disability Empowerment Center. Just a little bit about me. I have a master's degree in community psychology and a bachelor's degree in behavioral science, both from Penn State. I've spent the past 40 years providing supports and services to people with a variety of disabilities to help them live as independently as possible. I have a number of family members who have disabilities, including a disabled vet, hearing impairment, stroke, things of that nature. And I myself am diabetic with a number of complications from having that. In one or two sentences, just to tell you a little bit about helping people, persons in need, we help persons with a disability to break through the barriers to independent living. And we believe completely in consumer control and consumer choice in all aspects of their life.
There you go. So that is your vision mission statement?
Pretty close.
Okay. And so if you could expound, we were talking before we started to record, amazingly, all of the programs that you have under your umbrella from A to Z, we could spend a day talking about them and still not really completely explain everything that they are. So I'm going to give you the floor and you just share the ones that you feel are the pertinent ones for us in today's interview. If you would please, Dan. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, well, thank you. Well, having a disability puts you in a minority group, but it's a group that almost every person will become part of at some point of their lives. So in the community, there's a lot of great agencies, mostly run by well-meaning, able-bodied people. So the niche of Disability Empowerment Center we are a consumer-controlled agency. So majority of our staff and a majority of our board of directors are persons with a disability. And so in doing so, by working with Disability Empowerment Center, we give you access to other people who have personally experienced breaking through the barriers to independent living. Our staff are experienced with the emotions a person experiences when they acquire a disability. We're experienced in how to navigate through the complex government systems in order to access supports. And we're also experienced in how to set personal goals to achieve what you want to achieve throughout your life. So in doing so, like most centers for independent living, we have 5 core services. So the first one is independent living skills training. We work with individually designed training to help increase confidence and self-reliance as offered to all our consumers in areas such as income benefits, social and recreational opportunities, self-care, transportation, education, communication, assistive technology, budgeting, housing assistance, and job readiness and job networking. So the consumer and the folks we work with have chosen to refer to themselves as consumers. So that's kind of the catch-all phrase that they actually chose. But the consumer sets the pace, decides the goals, and does the work with Center for Independent Living staff serving as role models, advocates, and supporters. Some examples of skill building we've done is we teach people the bus routes. We teach them how to fill out job applications. We teach them how to cook simple meals, or maybe even complex meals. We also do peer mentoring. So we schedule events that will facilitate the peer mentoring process. Peer mentors are other people with a disability, maybe not the same disability, but they've experienced a lot of the same things. And so they can meet with individuals and help them break through the barriers and achieve what they want. Once again, encouraging them to make choices about their own lives. We also do information and referral. So if you have a question about any services in the community, you can call us. And if we don't know the answer, our staff will research it and get back with you with the information that you're looking for. We can also make referrals to other types of programs out there, such as housing, transportation, employment services. So we don't necessarily do all of it, but we can help you connect with agencies that specialize just in that.
And you know what, Dan, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. So important. You are a first line point of contact. So someone doesn't need to be necessarily in the system to
Right.
access your services. They can call you directly.
That's exactly right. Yep. And we will give information referral to anybody. So even if you're calling on behalf of somebody with a disability or just to gain some additional knowledge, you just call us and our staff will get the answers for you.
Excellent. All righty. So that was the first of the 5 that you're going to speak about.
Actually 1 through 3, but
Okay.
We also do individual and systems advocacy. So we empower people with disabilities to speak for themselves and assert their rights under the Americans with Disability Act and other civil rights legislation. And it's an important component of our 5 core services. SIL staff also advise and assist people with disabilities in advocating for the elimination of barriers and practices that preclude one's access to the greater community at large. So as I mentioned earlier, having a disability is a group almost everybody joins. And so we meet with legislators. Just this week, I met with a Pennsylvania state senator and a state rep from Lancaster County. And we do advocating for them to pass legislation and fund programs to make the world much more inclusive and accessible. So I like to tell people, if you don't have a disability now, donating to us will help us prepare the world so it'll be ready should you acquire a disability later in life. So advocacy is very important. The 5th core service is transition. And so we work with school-age children who have a disability, help them prepare to transition from school to college, to work, to whatever comes next. So it could be everything from finding their own apartment, moving away from parents, getting into college. We work very closely with Millersville University, who has an inclusive disability program there and have a number of students with disabilities. So we participate in a lot of the groups and programs that they offer. And one of the services that we've done, but we're kind of beefing up right now, is nursing home transition. Mm-hmm. So about 80% of the people in Pennsylvania who passed away from COVID lived in a nursing home. And so our philosophy is if people want to, they shouldn't have to live in a nursing home. So nursing home transition is we meet with folks and help them access the benefits and supports they need to leave the nursing home and return back into the community. So this can be anything from home modification, accessing and obtaining personal care attendants to meet their needs while they live at home. So that's a program we're working very hard to do now. Another service that we offer that's not part of our core services is we do American Sign Language interpretation, and that program is fee for service. So businesses, government entities, healthcare providers will contract with us, and we will provide a certified American Sign Language interpreter to help interpret for their deaf customers.
Excellent.
Our program would best serve anybody with a disability. I'm just kind of following through with the question. I think I jotted down.
Sure, sure.
So,
And I was going to say, if you could think of an example of someone that you were aware of that had the opportunity to use perhaps multiple facets of your services, could you share an example with us, please?
well, I'm thinking one of the examples, well, people will call in for information and referral. So we did have a young lady who uses a power wheelchair, and where she lived at, it was accessible by elevator. And so unfortunately, the elevator broke. And so she had called her landlord and said, well, how am I supposed to get to work? How am I supposed to get in my apartment? And his recommendation was she call a friend to carry her upstairs, and she stay there for the next few days until the wheelchair was fixed. So she called us for advocacy and information and referral. So we had spoken with the landlord, and we also connected her with Disability Rights of Pennsylvania, who are basically a lot of civil rights lawyers. They have a number of those. And so it only took a few phone calls, and the landlord decided to pay for her to stay in a hotel until the elevator was fixed. So she was able to continue going to work and doing things in the community and wasn't socially isolated in her own apartment.
That's a wonderful example. Wow. And just by one phone call to you.
Sure.
And so I'm going to ask you this twice, but at this point in time, if people are watching and saying, gee, that is just what I've been looking for, what are the ways that they could reach your agency, Dan?
Okay, well, our phone number is 717-394-1890. And Katrina most likely will answer the phone, and she's a very experienced person with information referral, and she can connect you with any of our staff. Now, we're also working remotely quite a bit, so we may take a message and have to call you back. That's a great way to access it. My email is dstroup, which is STROUP, at decpa.org. So dstroup at decpa.org. And our website is www.decpa.org. So you can find out more about us and how to contact us.
Okay, thank you for that. And I have a question. I sometimes get asked the question, if somebody's needing pre-vocational or employment services as a disabled member of the community, how do they fit into your program? How do you assist them?
Well, we will find out what exactly they're looking for and what they want, and we'll tell them the different options out there or funding streams they may need to access in order to get those services paid for. Our staff will then come up with a plan. They'll work with the individual and put it in writing what all they need to do. So it could be step one is to call OVR. So OVR funds a lot of different programs. And then we'll follow through, we'll role play the phone call if the person needs that. We'll follow up and make sure that they connected and that they actually got the outcomes that they were looking for. If needed, we can advocate with OVR or the other type of services out there for the individual to get the services they desire.
Very, very good. And you work with a family unit when you need to as well, I understand.
Sure, particularly with our program transitioning students from school to work. We do a lot of help with people doing their individual education plans in school. And with the COVID and every school going to virtual, a lot of the IEP services that were to be provided, the schools had a really hard time doing that. So as people are coming back in school, we can work with the families on what to ask for, how to ask for it, and making sure what they need is actually in the education plan. Schools are required to provide anything that's in the plan. So we'll also send an advocate along if the person needs a little extra help to vocalize what their desires are, to make sure it's in the plan and they get what their student needs.
So whether someone listening to this is a very young person with disabilities that needs help, part of a family unit, or a senior, they should be calling, and the number they should be calling again is?
717-394-1890.
Okay.
I guess I'd just like to add that we serve anybody with any disability, and the requirements to become a consumer of ours is to self-identify that you have a disability. So there's no barriers of having to go to the doctor and get forms filled out or complex forms to be able to access our service. You just call us and you tell us that you have a disability and what you're looking for, and we will help you.
And that is so much more simplistic than I thought. I've known about your agency for years, at times referred clients to you, and just a fresh review of the website. I thought your website did an excellent
Oh, thank
job
you.
of explaining everything that's available in this day and this time. So I want to thank you very, very much for this informative talk today, Dan, telling us about the More You Know and the Pennsylvania Link to Aging and Disability Resource Service Area 13 partner that you are. And so
Yeah.
I thank you, and my name is Margie Degler Pizarro, and I am so happy that you were with us today. And for all of you joining in, be well, and remember, when you need long-term information or assistance, call the PA Link to Aging and Disability Resource Center toll-free helpline at 1-800-753 8827. So Dan, as promised, I'm going to go ahead and put that information up on the screen now for a moment. There we are for anybody that wants to jot that down. And one more time, Dan, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah. Thank you, Marjorie.
Okay. Have a great day.